Hello my friends, today we are gonna create this awesome form using React. We will have some validation rules, and if I don't write the required inputs, it's gonna show these errors. And we will do this without any library or any complex function. It's only pure React, HTML and CSS. You will learn how to handle forms, what are the best practices and different ways to change inputs, how to prevent re-rendering, why re-rendering is not a big deal for forms, and so on. Okay, I hope you will like it. For more web development tips, you can like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you are ready, let's get started. Okay, I created my React app. It's here, app.js, and inside there is only one div, and my application is here. And this is how it looks on the browser. We are gonna create our form and inputs, and by the way, I see a lot of tutorials that use Formic, React Form, Yap library for the validation or any other libraries. But guys, if you don't know how they work, I recommend you not to use any of them. You should first learn how they work and how React nature is. If you realize, in my tutorials, I tend to show things without any libraries. We have created many apps that include sliders, animations, their own APIs, and they've all been pure React. And I will do the same thing here. Of course, libraries are great, they make everything much easier, but first, just learn the pure version, and after you can use anything you want. And you will see you will feel more confident when you know how it works, and you are gonna realize how many unnecessary things you are using. So I will come here and delete this, and I'm gonna create a form first. Like that. I can give a class name. It's gonna be just app, the main container, and here I'm gonna create my inputs. You can do this here, but I want to split them. So I'm gonna create another folder here, and it's gonna be components. Okay, so let's create our input component. So I will say form input.jsx or JS. So let's create our component function. And I'm gonna give here a class name. It's gonna be form input. And firstly, we are gonna have a label. I can write here in the label, we are gonna change this later. And after that, let's create an input. To style this component, I'm gonna create new file. It's gonna be form input.css. And let's import this CSS file here. Same folder and form input.css. Okay, I can close here. We are gonna give some styles later, and I can use this component here. Let me close this sidebar. Okay, so let's call form input here, form input, and I'm gonna duplicate this like that. So let's see. As you can see, they are here. They are all same. So how we are gonna change them? It's really easy. Only thing we should do is writing here some props. It can be placeholder. Let's say username. I can copy this and paste here. Email. Full name, for example. And something else. If we do that, we can take this prop here. I can directly destructure this and write placeholder, but I'm not gonna do that because we are gonna take a lot of things like name, label, type, error message, onChange function. So basically, I can write here just props, and I can use like that. Placeholder, it's gonna be props.placeholder, like that. Let's see right now. Let's take them here first, and we can see better after that. I will come here and say display flags, align item center, justify content center. So I'm gonna center them. But if I do that, they are gonna stay here because we don't have any height. So if I say height 100 VH, it's gonna be 100% like that. I'm gonna comment out these labels we are gonna give later, and let's open form input CSS, and for inputs I'm gonna say padding 15 pixels, and let's give some margin from top and bottom 10 pixels, left and right 0 pixel. Okay, like that. It looks really nice. So how I'm gonna reach these values? When I write here something, we are supposed to get this value. Of course, the first option, use state hook. For username, for example, if I say const username and set username, and if I say use state, and at the beginning it's gonna be an empty string, and I'm gonna console log this username, and if I write here this set username method as a prop, and I can use it here. I'm gonna use on change event, and I will say take the event props dot set username, and we are gonna update this state. It's gonna be event target and value. I will open up my console. Okay, there is a problem. I didn't. Okay. Set username equals set username. I will refresh, and I'm gonna write here something. As you can see, whenever I write any letter, it automatically updates our state, like that. And since we use useState hook here, it's gonna re-render our component each time. If I write here console log again, and let's say re-rendered, let's refresh the page again, and I'm starting writing something. And as you can see, each time it re-renders this component. Actually, it's not a problem, but some of you might wonder if there is a solution for that. Of course, there are two solutions for that. Firstly, instead of useState, you can use useRef hook. I will say const username ref, and it's gonna be useRef hook, and instead of username it's gonna be useRef hook. So I can delete here, I can pass something else here. I will say maybe refer, and I'm gonna use this value. So let's take it here. We don't need this anymore. I can delete, and for input I can give ref here. I'll say ref and props dot refer. Remember, we are passing this like that. You can change here, you can say whatever you want. And if we do that, you are gonna see we are not gonna able to see our changes. That's because it's not working like useState. It updates changes, but it's not able to show these changes on our screen. To understand this, I can write here a button. I will say submit, and when I submit my inputs, I will say here on submit method, and I can write here any function. Let's say on submit or handle submit, and let's create this function. Const handle submit, and firstly I'm gonna write here e.prevent default. If you don't write this, when you click this button, it's gonna refresh the page. To prevent this, we are writing this method. And after that, let's console log our username ref here. And I'm writing something. And when I submit, as you can see, we have an object here. Inside, we have an input element. I can see its value, which is John. And if I change here, as you can see, it's not rendering. Awesome. I can duplicate this and do the same thing for email, full name, or anything else, and it works like that. And one more thing we can do, we don't need any ref here. I can delete here also. And let's delete here. Okay, so what we can do, we can actually use our form here. And we can create new form data. Let's do that. I will say const data is gonna be new form data. And I can use my event here. Basically, I will say event.target. But how it's gonna target our elements? To do that, we can use here name attribute. I will say name, username, and for others, name, email, full name, and something. Let's use them here. I can say name and props.name, and that's all. Let's see what we have here. We can't directly console log them, but at least we can see what we have inside data. I will write here something. I will submit, and as you can see, we have form data here. And inside, you have entries. But how we are gonna reach these entries? To do that, we can use object method. I will say object and from entries and data.entries. So let's see what we have right now. I will refresh again. And I will submit. And as you can see, we can reach them right now. Email, full name, something, and username. Awesome. If you want to reach your values without rendering your component, you can use useRef or these form functions. But I see many people are worried about rendering components. If you have states and you change them, you shouldn't worry about rendering. It's the nature of React. You are changing something and it should be passed through the user screen immediately. You can use it either way, form data, useRef, but if you ask my opinion, there is no problem to use useState here. It's just one component and it doesn't affect any other components, which doesn't include useState. So it really doesn't matter if you render here or not. So what I'm gonna do is changing here to useState. I will open up, I can delete this. And let's delete here. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, for each input, writing here like that, email, full name, surname, it's not a good practice. That's because you can have more than, 10 inputs, and it could be really frustrating. So what I'm gonna do is creating here a new object. Instead of username, I'm gonna say values. And it's gonna be an object, and let's say username, maybe more, let's say email, maybe birthday, and I'm gonna use password. And to confirm this password, let's write here one more password. Confirm password. And instead of writing them one by one, I can basically use an array. To do that, let's create here our inputs array. I will say const inputs. It's gonna be an array and it's gonna include our each inputs here. First one will be, let's say ID1 and name. Username, type will be text, and placeholder like that, and it's gonna be username. I can give also label. We can use it finally, and other things I'm gonna do later, like that. Let's write for more. It's gonna be email, birthday, like that. Of course, you should change ID because we are gonna use map and we should indicate our unique ID. Password and confirm password. Like that. Of course, their type will be password. Okay, I can use them here. I will say inputs. It's gonna be map, and for each input, I can call my component like that. As I said, if you are using map, just indicate your key here. It's gonna be input.id. And this time I can delete here and basically pass everything inside my input. ID, name, type, placeholder, everything here. And additionally, I'm gonna give value, and it's gonna be our each individual value here. How I'm gonna do that? I will say values and input.name. Basically, it's gonna take this object and search for this input name. For example, for name, it's gonna be username, which is this empty string. For email, it's gonna be this empty string. It's gonna work like that. And finally, I can change my values here. I will say const onChange method or handle change, and I'm gonna set my values here using this method. I will say set values, and I'm gonna spread the previous values, and for each target name, event target.name, we are gonna update them by using their value, event target.value. Basically, this target name is these names, and this value is whatever we write here. It's gonna update them immediately. So let's pass this function also. I will say onChange and onChange. Okay, let's take those props. I can use this here. Let's delete here, and we can directly use props. Let's destructure them. I will say const. I can take everything which we are not using here inside input. For example, label, onChange function. What else we have? Maybe ID. We don't need that. And for other things, and I will say others, or I don't know, input props. And it's gonna be equal our props, like that. Right now, I can use this label here. Let's say label, and I can use those inputs directly here. Of course, I should spread them again, like that. And let's create onChange method. And when we change something, we can run this function, like that. Okay, let's see right now. I will write here console log my each element. Let's see what we have. I will refresh the page. It looks pretty ugly, but we are gonna change it. As you can see, they are empty right now. I'm updating. Oops, something is wrong with this confirm password. Let's see. Name, confirm password. Okay, there's a typo here. And right now, when I change, it's gonna be here. Okay, it works. And when I submit, I can directly reach this object and send to my API or DB. But what about validations? We are going to have some validations rules. For example, username is required. It's going to be minimum 3 characters, maximum 10 characters. It should be just an email. For example, password should include 1 letter, 1 number, and 1 special character, something like that. And also our confirm password should be the same with this password. How we are gonna do this? It's really easy. You don't have to use any library. We are gonna use only HTML and CSS. But first, let's give some style. Firstly, I'm gonna give background image here. I will just paste my image here. I just found free image on Google and I gave some opacity for this image. Let's see. It's like that. But as you can see, it's not centered and it doesn't cover our screen. So I'm gonna write here background size. It's gonna be cover and background position will be center. Okay, it's much better. You can increase or decrease this opacity as you wish. Like that is better for me. And what about this form? I'm gonna give background color. It's gonna be white. Like that. I can give some padding. Heading from top and bottom and left and right. Like that. I can give border radius, let's say 10 pixels, like that. By the way, I can give a title here. Let's say before this map, I will say h1 tag and it's gonna be register, like that. And for this title, h1 color will be something like purple, but darker one, like that. And I will just align this text align center. Okay, awesome. Let's take care of this submit button. I will say button. I will give width 100%. Let's give height. And I will give padding. I will say border none. And background color will be this purple color and font color will be white. I can increase font size. Border radius, let's say 5. Font weight will be bold and font size, let's say 18 pixels. And of course cursor pointer. Okay, like that. I can give margin top 15 and margin bottom, let's say 30. Okay, good. It looks really nice. So what about those inputs? I can close here. Form inputs, I will say display flex, and flex direction will be column. They are gonna be vertical, awesome. And I can give some width. It's really small. Okay, it's better. 5 pixels and border will be 1 pixel solid and it's gonna be gray. Okay, it's better. Those labels, let's write it here. Label font size will be 12 and color gray, like that. But what about our error messages? I'm gonna add somewhere under input. So let's write here a span and it's gonna be error message. Of course we don't have yet, but we are gonna send them. Let's write them here. I will choose all labels. And before them, I can say error message, and we are gonna write them right now. So what are our requirements? For username, for example, I will say username should be 316 characters and shouldn't include any special character. Any special character. It's going to be our error message. And for email, it should be a valid email address. And for birthday, we are not going to have any requirements. That's because we are going to use type date here, and it's going to automatically show us this interface, and we can choose any date here like that. So even if I try to type something, it's not going to work, so we don't need any message. And for passwords, a 20 characters, and it should include at least one letter, one number, and one special character. And finally, for this password, I'm gonna say passwords don't match. So I will come here, and for our span, I will say font size 12. I can give some padding, and color will be red, like that. So what I'm gonna do, when I restart my application, they are still here. We shouldn't see them. I should only see when those inputs are invalid. So basically, I will say display none for now. And whenever our inputs are invalid, our span will be display block. Okay, perfect. But how we are gonna add invalid functionality? It's really easy. We can just use HTML here. Only thing you should do is writing your requirements. We are gonna use required attribute, and it will be true. It's an HTML attribute. If I comment this out and, for example, write here required, all error messages are here. That's because we didn't write anything for those items. If I write here something, as you can see, it gets disappeared, and here, like that. Basically, I can give this attribute here, like that. And for others, for email, it's gonna be required. It doesn't have to be required. And password, and confirm password. And what else? Remember, we have a rule here. It should be 316 characters and shouldn't include any special character. To do that, there's an awesome attribute also, which is pattern. You can use string, you can use regex code. What I mean by that? I will write here, for example, John. As you can see, our error message here. But if I write John, as you can see, it disappears. If I write one more letter here, for example, it comes back like that. So basically, we can use any path here. It doesn't have to be string. We can use regex. So I'm gonna say it's gonna start with any capital letters or normal letters or any number 0 to 9. And also I can provide here my character limit, and it's gonna be 3 to 16. And I'm gonna end it like that. Oops, it's gonna be comma, by the way. Okay, let's see. As you can see, our error is here. I will write something, 1, 2, 3, and after 3 characters, it gets disappeared. But if I add here any special character, as you can see, it comes back. We shouldn't include any special character. It should be only letters and numbers. And if I exceed 16 characters, it's gonna be here again. It's that easy. I'm not gonna explain everything about regex codes, but you don't have to memorize anything. Just use Google. JavaScript only letter regex code. As you can see, it's here. JavaScript, one letter, one number, one special character regex code. Oops, letter. As you can see, they are all here. You don't have to memorize anything. You don't have to learn regex. If you learn, it will be much easier for you. But as I said, it's not that important. So what about my mail address? I can basically use here type email, and that's all. Let's write here something correct, and if I try to submit, as you can see, please fill out this field. That because it's not an email. So if I write here something gmail.com, as you can see, it's not here anymore. Awesome. So what about password? I will do the same thing. I will say pattern, and it's gonna be this code. Basically, it says it should include at least one number, one letter, and one special character, and other characters can be anything. Doesn't matter here. And it should be between 8 and 20. Let's try. I will write here something, but you can't see that because we said type password. I will just turn this to text, and after I'm gonna change it again. I will write here something like that, lowercase, uppercase, number, and one special character, like that. You see how easy it is. So basically, you don't have to create any strange functions. You don't have to write tens of lines for loop code. Only thing you should do is writing a pattern here. So what about confirm password? Basically, I can use pattern again, but this time it's gonna be our password here. So how I'm gonna reach this value? It's really easy. It's here, remember, we can use values and password. If it equals, it's gonna be the correct pattern. So I will say values dot password, like that. Let's see. Let me change it again. It will be our password, and I'm gonna change here. As you can see, this error is still here. 1, 2, 3, and if I say hashtag, it's gonna be disappeared. Awesome. Let's change it. And here. Okay. If I refresh the page, as you can see, they are still here because of required attributes. But for the user experience, it's not a good idea to write them at the beginning. That's because I just refreshed the page. Why you are showing me those errors? I didn't write anything. Wait, if I write something, then show me this error. But it's still not a good idea. For example, when I start writing something here, it's gonna show up again. But I'm still writing. I shouldn't see that. But if I go to another input, then it should warn me. Hey, you are in the another input, but something is wrong here. You forgot about that. So how I'm gonna do this? Basically, I need a functionality. When I click this input, and if I click somewhere else, here or somewhere else, we should basically mark this input. We have an awesome event for that. Only thing I should do is writing here on blur event. So how I'm gonna mark my input? Basically, I can write here const focused set focused Actually, it's not focused and leave, but doesn't matter. And use state. And at the beginning, it's gonna be false. And when I click this input and click somewhere else, it's gonna run on blur event here. So basically, I can update my state. So I will say, actually, I can write function handle focus. And let's write it here. Const handle focus. And basically, I can set focused to true. Okay, we set our input as focused, but how we are gonna use it in our CSS? Basically, I can write here a condition. I will say focused, and it's gonna be my condition. If it focused, let me open my console and elements here, our form and our divs, and this is our input, and this is another one. When I click this and click somewhere else, I'm gonna write here focused true, but it's a boolean, it should be a string, so basically I can say to string. And let's see. Let me open up again. I'm clicking here and clicking somewhere else. And as you can see, focus true. But others are still same. As you can see, false, false, false. And when I click here and click somewhere else, for example here, right now our password focused is true. And basically, when focused is true, I can show this error. Let's use it in our CSS. It's gonna be not only invalid, also focused will be true. Let's see. I will refresh. They are not here. I'm writing something. As you can see, it's not here. I have one character, but I can see the error. But if I come here, as you can see, it warns me. Username should be 316 characters. And same thing here. I'm writing something, but it's not an email, but it doesn't warn me. But if I try to choose my birthday, it's gonna warn me. Where are you going? It's not an email. So if I correct here, it's not gonna warn me anymore. And same thing here. If I write 2 more characters, it's gonna be disappeared. Awesome. And if I delete this, it's gonna come back again. It's really useful, guys. It's just an HTML and CSS. And by the way, we can also add red border for our invalid inputs. I will copy this. And I will say border 1 pixel, solid and red. And as you can see, this border is red also. Perfect. It works. Password. It's incorrect. I will correct them. And as you can see, our error is here. That because I clicked there. Okay, awesome. But there's a problem. The confirm password is our last element. If I write here something, and if I click here, I'm not gonna click anywhere else. It's only submit button here. So even if I write here incorrect password, it's not gonna warn me. I'm gonna see this after submitting my form. So it's nonsense. How I can prevent this? Basically, I can use another function here, another event, and it's gonna be on focus. Basically, it works when we click on any item. remember, blur, click and leave, focus, just one click. So I will say if input props dot name equals confirm password, I'm gonna set focus to true. So I will say my condition and set focus true. It's gonna work only for confirm password. Let's try. Oops, white screen. Probably I forgot function here. Yes, it should be arrow function. I will save again, and they are here. sam@gmail.com and password. And when I click here, as you can see, passwords don't match. I will write here my correct password and it gets disappeared. Awesome. Let's check what we have done. We get our props. And only thing we did here is handle focus function. That's all. And it's that short. And for app.js, only thing we should do is writing our values object and our inputs. And here, look at that. We have just onChange method here. And that's all. No validation functions, no custom hooks, no libraries. It's that easy. So we finished this project. Of course, you should validate forms in your backend app also, but it's not the concern of this video. If you want, just let me know in the comments. So that's all. If you learned something new today, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And you can support Lama Dev by using the join button or the link in the description below. And don't forget to follow Lama Dev social media accounts. Okay, I hope I will see you in the next tutorial. Goodbye.